Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappertown, episode 56. My name is Devon, but you can call me Gibby, and I am here with Eric, who you can call Eric.
Hello.
I have a question for you, Eric.
I have an answer for you, Devin.
Okay. Do you have any specific type of cake that you dislike? And I don't just mean chocolate vanilla, I mean some of the more out there ones, like pumpkin, or carrot cake, or red velvet, like the
Well,
trio of not real cake flavors. What are your thoughts on those?
first of all, red velvet is delicious because red velvet is
Hmm.
just chocolate with food coloring.
So you say.
No, I don't like the other two flavors though. I don't particularly jive with it, I don't know. I I'm a wimp. I like chocolate and vanilla and whatever and yellow golden or whatever it is for cake. But if someone's like, "Here's pumpkin cake," I'll try it and be polite and whatever. But like, I would not go out of my way to get it. I would not go get it at all. Actually,
Okay.
some
So
flavors just
yeah.
aren't meant to be.
So I love pumpkin cake and
Oh, I'm so
I
sorry.
love carrot cake
Oh no.
and I think red velvet is disgusting.
Oh my
Like I'm
gosh.
at the point where I think if someone offered like okay, if I'm at a party and there's red velvet cake, everyone's like everyone gets a slice, I'll be like okay. But if someone's like, hey, do you want red velvet cake? I would literally just say no. Like I do not. I think it's gross.
How is it gross? It's just chocolate, but red.
Yeah, and chocolate cake is also gross.
Oh my goodness. I don't understand your beef with chocolate. Because you
Yeah,
brought
last
this
week.
up last time
Yeah,
too. You
chocolate
were
ice
like,
cream.
oh,
Don't like it.
chocolate ice cream sucks. It's like, what are you doing here? You just denying all forms of chocolate?
Except for
Because that
chocolate
can't
chocolate,
be.
yes.
What, what does that even mean?
Like a Hershey bar. Like I love chocolate. M&Ms, chocolate. Chocolate's good. I've never had a good chocolate ice cream or good chocolate cake. Just saying.
This is insane.
Maybe people should get
So,
better at making ice cream and cake.
well, no, so you like chocolate, but you don't like chocolate flavoring.
Um, I don't know. So like I know people who hate grape flavor, whether it's grape flavored Fanta or grape flavored like Gatorade or whatever. They're like, I don't like grape. And then you're like,
Mm,
okay, well, do you like grapes? And they're like, well, yeah, but grapes don't taste like grape. First
right.
of all, grape flavors, best flavor. Purple Gatorade, purple Fanta, those are the best flavors of those kinds of those sodas drinks. But like I get it, I understand. Like yes, grape flavor does not taste like grape. I understand.
Yeah.
So I would say that yeah, chocolate flavor does not taste like chocolate.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. Yeah, mm, yeah,
Anyway,
Have
best
you
best
ever?
cake, vanilla cake with some lemon, vanilla lemon is good. That's the best cake. Carrot cake's very
I
good though.
mean,
Also pumpkin.
that's a take. I don't. I could have heard worse, I guess. Um, but I still disagree. Wait, but I wanna. Have you had chocolate that's like, I don't know, like real chocolate, quote unquote? You know, there's like chocolate bars where it's like made with 80% cacao. And it's supposed to be like, oh, this is like the least processed. Like, it's not like a Hershey bar. It's like mostly just like cocoa bean refined and whatever. And it's like super bitter.
Yeah, and I love that stuff. I used to get Choco Nibs, which is basically what you're saying, or just like bitter, dark chocolate, like chocolate chips, like for baking. Like I'll mix that stuff in with like yogurt. So yeah, no, I do very much enjoy those, like on purpose.
This this is so wild because real chocolate is very bitter, and you
Yeah, and I
like the
love
very
it.
bitter, and yet you hate Granny Smith apples, which are bitter.
Granny Smith
Make it make
apples are
sense.
sour. They're sour. There are some bitter red apples which are fine. Granny Smith apples are disgusting and sour.
I don't
If you were
know.
like, I eat lemons, I'd be like, okay, that's whatever. Granny Smith apples are like lemons, but without the novelty of being lemons. That's how gross they are.
No, no, nay, nay. They're delicious.
Well, speaking
Anyway,
of delicious desserts,
oh,
have you had any experiences with cookies recently?
I have. I've gotten some Girl Scout cookies. 'Tis the
Wow,
season.
let's tell us about those.
Well, let me. I do our international listeners know what they are?
No, they
Maybe.
definitely don't.
Okay, so Girl Scouts is like an organization to put your child in to like, I don't know, make them not eat up all your time and attention. You like send them off so they do things and they learn to, I don't know, do things like sell cookies. And so the cookie flavors are like, I don't remember all of them, but the good ones are Samoas and Thin Mints. And Thin Mints are
Number
just
one
kind of like
Thin Mint
a,
hater over here. Same thing with mint chocolate ice cream. Number one Thin Mint hater.
uh,
Can't stand them.
so Thin Mints are like a chocolate minty cookie. Samoas are like a coconut chocolate caramel cookie. And then I think there's four more. There's like a peanut butter one. There's like a lemon cookie, and it's just kind of like a vanilla wafer, but
Yeah,
it's
those are
just
good.
lemon. What else is there?
I don't know. I don't like Samoas either. I'm really not a Girl Scout cookie
Bruh.
person. I don't like any of them really.
Uh, so what I'm hearing is you're not American. You've snuck into the country somehow. How could you? Every red-blooded American loves a Girl Scout cookie. At least one of them. At least one box. That's how it's like what do you call it? Like a Gryffindor house or a Harry Potter house. It's
like a
like, what Girl Scout cookie do you represent? Purple, green, etc.
it's like a horoscope.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, not a fan. Never really.
Mm.
I don't know because me and everyone I know was in Boy Scouts, but like there weren't ever really Girl Scouts. Yeah, no, never like so like basically because I was a Boy Scout, I knew what the scam was, right? I knew that it's because
Well,
we had
it's
to
not
sell
a
popcorn.
scam.
Oh no, it is a scam. So little
Huh.
of the money goes to like the troop itself. It's like
No.
if someone I've had Boy Scouts like come to my door and be like, "Hey, we're selling this. You wanna buy a popcorn or whatever?" Or like we sell flowers to Boy Scouts.
Hmm.
And I'd always be like, "No, here is $10. Use this to like buy your son a new Boy Scout hat or something." Like I would much rather the troop have this money than the cookie company get the money and put like 10% back in the pocket of the overall global organization and then that
Mm.
organization dish out some money to the local chapter. So no, if
Sure.
if people ever try to sell me something, I just donate the money.
I see. I mean, yeah, it's fair enough. But you, hmm, hmm,
Hmm.
hmm. I mean, it goes to them eventually, but understandable.
Yeah, I'll give money
Um,
to the Boy Scout who lives in my neighborhood before I'll buy their stuff. I will also say that back when I was a Boy Scout, and obviously we did a lot of volunteer work, and we sold the popcorn and stuff. It taught me the exact wrong lesson
oh,
on hard work because when I got
okay.
older and it was time for me to like get a job, my only experience with work was volunteer work for Boy Scouts. And
Mm,
so I associated working with doing difficult things, being forced to be there, being bossed around by people, and getting absolutely nothing in return because it's volunteer work and you don't get paid.
Hmm.
And so I always, like, I just hated the concept of working
Mm-hmm.
because my experiences had been volunteering as a Boy Scout. And then once I finally got a job and I got paid for it, I'm like, oh, I get it. You're willing to do things you don't want to do because you get something in return, which is monetary value. I understand working now.
Well,
So yeah, I think that Boy Scouts and volunteering was the worst possible thing that I experienced as a kid because it harmed my understanding of work.
but
So yeah,
didn't you?
very anti-volunteering. Oh, don't you feel good about like helping out your community and being a part of something? No, no,
No,
I
I
did
wasn't
not.
gonna say anything like that. But don't you know that's volunteering? Like when you were young, you're like, oh, I am going to volunteer, not, oh, I am going to work.
I think so. Like when I was younger, like my mom signed me up for a bunch of sports. I had a sport every season: basketball, baseball, rugby, soccer. Right, one for every season. And I just kind of saw it the way I saw school. I was like, oh, my mom wants me to go to this. I'm doing it for my parents because they signed me up for it. I liked
Hmm.
rugby. I didn't like the other three really. So like, why did I do things as a kid? Because my parents wanted me to. Whereas the real thing that's actually going on is your parents think that you'll enjoy it, and so they're doing it for you. But for me, it was always like I don't want to be doing this. So
Hmm.
I didn't see it as like a thing for me. I saw it as like this is an obligation I'm doing for other people. If I'm going to soccer practice, it's because I'm doing it for my mother. So like that is volunteer work as well. Um, yeah. So when I saw
Wild.
Boy
Interesting.
Scouts, the part of Boy Scouts I liked was the camping trips because you could go off
Hmm.
and hang out with your friends in the woods. The part of Boy Scouts I didn't like was everything else, including the meetings. The meetings were just like school or the
Yeah.
volunteer work, which is just like work but you don't get paid. And so I always saw it as like I'm doing all this stuff for other people. And I'm sure that the intention is that you see that you're doing it for yourself. Or at the very least, it builds character, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
want to be doing it, but by roughing through something, by doing something difficult, you come out the other side having learned something about yourself and about life. And that definitely didn't happen either.
Interesting. Interesting.
And that's why Girl Scout
Interesting.
cookies are bad.
No, they're fine. You know what my version of this is? And it's like the opposite stuff, I think. So,
Sure.
my dad used to coach basketball and stuff. And so, they would, there would be like snack stands or whatever, and you could buy waters and whatever. So there would always be like a big cooler on wheels to like keep the waters cold that they sold to people. And at the end of the game, like my brother and I, we would take the ice cooler and wheel it outside and empty the ice, just because we were like, A, it was kind of fun, at least for me, and B, like, it helps out our dad vaguely because basketball games, therefore anything we do is kind of tied back to him. And then like, why not? And I think someone asked us like the first time, and then we just kind of started doing it. Um, and I was just like, yeah, it's just a thing you do to be nice, I guess. Um, and they were very appreciative. Or like my version of like I did soccer and stuff and whatever, and I quit when I got hurt, and my parents were like, okay. um, but my mom was like, okay, you can either do Boy Scouts or baseball, and I was like, well, I know people that do Boy Scouts, and it looks dumb as hell, so I'll do baseball.
Every single
Um,
one of your friends was a Boy Scout.
yes, and it looked dumb. One of our our friend Christian, he like I don't know. There's a Boy Scout badge or something that like you have to bring a friend to a meeting to like low key try to
Yes.
recruit them. But like it's a requirement on his part, so he like brought me to one. I agreed to it, and he was like, they like brought me up in front of the room, and he was like, "This is Eric. I am doing this for whatever badge," and he's here, and I was just like, "Hi," and then we just like played video games for the rest of the meeting or something.
What? What kind of troop are you in, lad?
No,
Yeah,
just me
no.
and him. Because we were just like that's just the thing he did, and I just didn't care about anyone there.
Oh,
So
that's
when
funny.
presented with the choice of Boy Scouts or anything else, I was like, not Boy Scouts. Then I got hit in the head by a baseball bat, so I didn't do that again.
That's crazy.
Um, and then I had to do cross country because, in a similar vein, my mom was like, you got to do a thing so it'll be good for you. But the
See,
thing I think,
at least your mom
uh,
told you that you were only doing it because she wanted you to.
oh yeah, um, the thing that was kind of interesting with me though is like eventually, like I was like, oh, this sucks, I don't like it. But then after doing it, I think I did it for a total of like 8 years or so. I did get to a point where I was like, yeah, yeah, running. Oh, it's so good. Um, and then it just kind of became like an expected thing. My parents did not make me do a sport a season. That's kind of wild. Um, they were content with one.
Yeah, I didn't do any sports in high school. Both of my brothers did fencing. I was preoccupied being overweight and not wanting to do fencing.
There, I
Also,
tried
we
doing
played
fencing.
D&D. I had a girlfriend. I had a very different high school experience than my brothers.
Lols. Um, I tried fencing and it sucked because they got a new coach and he only cared about winning, and I had never fenced before, and like he just didn't teach like how to fence. He was just concerned with getting the people that were already good at winning events to make them better, and I was just like, okay, I quit. This is stupid. And he was
Did
like,
you?
"Well, you can't quit because this is a serious thing, and you can't just quit fencing." And I was like, "I am literally failing a class. I'm quitting fencing so I can focus."
Was that freshman year?
Uh, Sophomore?
Okay, I remember that Destructor did fencing, but I think only she only did it like freshman year. I don't recall. Were you on the team with when she was
No,
doing it? Okay,
no.
maybe
There
she
was
only did it
also
freshman year.
there was also guy and girl fencing. So like when
Fair.
we practiced, there were no girls in the like the gym that we used or whatever. They might have just been in a different part of the school.
Wow.
Yeah, all that to say is Samoa and Thin Mints are the best Girl Scout cookies.
All that to say is I actively dislike Samoa's, Thin Mints, Red
The
Velvet Cake, chocolate ice
S-
cream.
Samoa cookies are so good.
I don't like coconut.
The Keebler company stole the recipe and made their own. So I don't want to hear it.
You know Keebler fudge stripes?
Yeah,
Is there a Girl Scout version of that? Because I do like those.
no,
Okay.
I don't believe
What's the
there
point?
is.
What's the
What do
point?
you
Like,
mean?
okay, I like vanilla wafers, but like that's I'm not gonna buy a $40 box of those from Girl Scouts.
If you that would be 8 boxes,
How much is a box?
$5.
Okay, I don't know. I've never bought and that's cookies before. I don't know.
Well, what, you're just casually like, well, I'm buying $40 worth of cookies.
Because when Boy Scouts sold popcorn, it was like $40.
Oh my gosh, jeez, that's insane.
Looks like
It,
there's Thin Mints, disgusting. Samoa's disgusting. tagalongs, which looks like it's peanut butter, so like kind of like a Reese's, but I doubt it'll be good. Have you ever had knockoff Reese's? I
No.
think most other brands of Reese's are gross because like I don't know, the peanut butter is not the same. Dosey Do's oatmeal sandwich with peanut butter filling. Again, anything with peanut butter is a big risk. Adventureful is a brownie inspired cookie topped with caramel flavored creme with a hint of sea salt. That might actually be good. Trefoils looks like shortbread. It's literally just shortbread. Toffee-tastic, don't like toffee. S'mores, can't eat marshmallows. Lemon Ups, those might be good. That just seems like it's vanilla wafer with some lemon flavor. Okay, I guess I would be willing to try Adventurefuls.
Okay.
That's my
I've never heard someone be more wrong because Samoa and
okay.
Thin Mints are the best. Leave
No, they're
your
not.
favorite Girl Scout cookie in the comments so we can look at them and agree or disagree with you.
And if you were a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout, leave like your opinion on, your organization, but also I want to hear like a horror story. Like just a terrible like this thing happened, like it rained, my tent blew away, my foot got stuck in the mud. I want to hear some like terrible awful camping story. One of the things you will learn if you do scouting is if you ever have a beach trip, if you're ever camping on the beach, you will never, ever, ever get all of the sand out of your sleeping bag.
Oh, I mean, that's just with life at any beach event, isn't it? I mean, I can see why it would be worse for a sleeping bag, but if you go to the beach at any point and, like, I don't know, you don't take your shoes and socks off and you walk on the sand, you might as well just throw away those socks.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to be throwing away a sleeping bag. And so if you're ever doing you're like your next camping trip, you take it out, you're like, oh, I'm so cold, we're going to get in the tent and like I can finally go to sleep. And then you get in, you get in the sleeping bag and there's just sand grains everywhere. You're like, no.
You don't clean it?
Oh no, you do. You throw it out. Not you know what I mean. You open it
You,
and
like,
you
toss it. You, like,
yeah
slam
toss
it
it.
against a wall.
You go whoop 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 whoop. You hang it on a clothesline. Air it out. That's the word I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
You do that, but yeah, you still get rid of all the sand. I just had a major flashback memory. Weren't we talking about sleep paralysis?
At some point, yes.
At some point recently, we were talking about it. Maybe last week? Question mark. I think so.
Shrug. Go on.
Maybe. Okay, I know I was talking about it on like my main FNAF channel. My mother bought me a sleeping bag for Boy Scouts and was like, the sleeping bag's in my room. Go see if you like fit in it or whatever. And so I get all nice, comfy, and cozy in the sleeping bag, and then I get sleep paralysis.
Lols. Also
And
good stretch.
I remember my mother's on the phone in the other room. This is when phones were things on walls that had cords on them. So she's in the other room, and I'm lying in the dark sleeping bag, and it's like overheating because sleeping bags are like, supposed to keep you warm, but I'm just like inside. And I can't move because I have sleep paralysis. And so I start screaming. I'm like, Mom, like I can't get out. I need help.
Mm.
And she's like, I'm on the phone. I'm like, I can't get out. And she's like, you can literally get out. I'm like, no, I can't. Again, I'm trying to explain that, like, I can't move because I'm in sleep
Mm-hmm.
paralysis. And when you're in sleep paralysis, obviously you start panicking. And then like I'm like, no, like you need to help me right now. So she puts down the phone, she comes over and she just like unzips it, which I could have just done, and then she was angry. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And I'm just sort of now flashing back to that. Because anytime if you have sleep paralysis is going to be like so traumatic and scary that you'll remember it. I'm like, oh, I get it now. That was sleep paralysis. I
Did you,
understand. I
like,
was right all along. I'll go tell her that after this.
lols? Did you, like, see a demon or something? Or, like, you just couldn't move? And that was freaky.
But just couldn't move.
Hmm. Hmm.
I may have been thinking about mummies because of the circumstances.
You're in a sleeping bag.
Yeah, I'm in a sleeping bag, so it's like a sarcophagus or whatever. So like that was probably scary, but no, it was much more like I'm paralyzed and cannot move.
Mm, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever had sleep paralysis. So.
Well,
I
let's
can't.
do it. Let's make it happen. Next episode,
Nah.
I'll talk for 30 minutes. You lie on your back on the floor. You're not allowed to
Uh-huh.
move a single muscle. You can't twitch. If you twitch a muscle, you have to start the 30-minute timer over again. You can breathe and you can blink. Obviously, your eyes
I
should
don't.
be closed, but like if you want to, you can do that. And I'll just talk, and it'll be a calming, nice voice. And then after 15 minutes, I'll wake you up and be like, "How was your sleep paralysis?" And then you'll have a story to tell.
Is that how you? I thought. Can you just trigger sleep paralysis? I thought it was
Yeah.
like a. Sounds fake.
No, no, I've done it on purpose a bunch of times.
Weird.
Well, no, no,
Hmm.
again, it's like, you know how like, oh, I'm gonna go drop some LSD and go on a drug trip and like see some
Sure.
crazy stuff. Yeah, you can just like do that by lying still for a while.
It still sounds fake.
Okay, but it's
Um,
not.
the closest I've ever gotten to that is when I had a nightmare, and it was so intense that it woke me up. And because I was asleep, like my body was still catching up, and but I like screamed myself awake.
Yes, I have also experienced those. Let me tell our fine folks listening at home about the nightmare I had a few days ago.
Okay.
Okay, so me and Eric play Magic the Gathering, and Magic the Gathering is releasing a new product, a limited supply quantity offer of special Magic the Gathering cards featuring art from SpongeBob SquarePants. And the last time they did this, they had art from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I was planning on getting it, but it sold out before it went on sale, which was really annoying. So this time I'm like obsessed with making sure I get SpongeBob. And so I had a dream, and in the dream, we knew that it was going to be limit 4 per customer for like, buying the product. And I knew I wanted 4 because I was going to keep one sealed. I was going to use one in the game, and I was maybe going to sell one, and then the fourth one was a bonus. So I'm like, I'm just going to buy 4. And then our friend George was going to buy 2, and then Eric was going to buy 1, and then our friend Christian that we mentioned earlier was going to buy 1. And so, because it's so hard to get into the queue to actually purchase them, the plan was George on his phone was going to buy 4, for that group, and me on my phone, I was going to buy 4 all for me. And then we get in the queue, and then we put the products in our carts, and then I hit checkout, and there's an error message, and it boots me back to the end of the queue, and then it sells out. And so I rush over to George, and I'm like, George, my thing broke. I can't get any. And he's like, well, I'm only buying 4 for the 3 of us, so I guess you don't get any at all. And I'm like, no, it's SpongeBob Magic Secret Lair. And then I woke up and I was really upset. And that's what my nightmares are like. That's my stress dreams.
Dang. Let me play a
Dang.
tune for you on the world's smallest violin.
What nightmares have you had recently, Eric?
Recently? I have no idea. Um, Sheesh. Yeah, I don't know about recently. The one that made me scream myself awake was a giant wasp that was telling me not to beat up a person I would have maybe beat up.
You actually
Uh,
told that story on the show already.
well, yeah, but I don't know if it's they knew it's the screaming one. So
No, I didn't know
at the
that.
very least,
I just mean if you're like, yeah, I had a dream about a wasp, our listeners are gonna be like, actually, episode 6, you already told us about the wasp dream.
it was
That's what our
50
viewers sound like.
episodes ago. I could repeat myself. Um, yeah, I haven't had a ton of nightmares, I guess, or at least they're not super memorable. I don't know. I mean, there's one I could tell, but it was
Do
kind
it,
of
do
weird.
it, do it.
I was a like teenager or something, and like
Oh, that's
the
horrible.
I know. Um, I forget all of the context about it basically. So the only thing I remember is I was in a cauldron and there was this like half spider, half woman witch thing that was like cooking me in her cauldron. And it was just very real and whack. I was like, what, brain, what are you doing to me? Why are we being dreamed of cooked alive?
Hmm. I was, you know the Chronicles of Narnia?
Yeah.
Have you ever read the books?
Nope.
Have you ever seen the Disney movies?
Only the first.
Have you ever seen the BBC movies?
Nope.
Okay, so the Disney movies, they only did like the first three. They skipped around. I don't know. It's a whole thing. The Narnia movies, the Narnia books are more confusing than Star Wars. Um, so the BBC in the 90s or something, or maybe the early 2000s, I don't know, made TV movies out of some of the books. Again, they skipped the first one. First one's the best one, just saying. Magician's Nephew, best book. So in like the eighth book or the sixth book, I don't know, the Silver Chair, the kids have to like go to the land of the Castle of the Giants or something, and the giants like try to eat them. And so I watched that, and then I had a nightmare that I was being
Mm.
chased around by a giant that was going to eat me. And I vividly remember this because it took place in my grandmother's kitchen for some reason.
Mm.
And I'm just like, I'm in my grandma's kitchen, and the giants come to eat me. And that was the dream. I must have been very, very young. That must have been like 2003. I must have been like 6, 7 maybe.
You know, I did have, did you ever watch the, like, I don't know, 2009 movie Beowulf?
No, I did not, but I recall that it came out and it was weird CG animation, like the what's the train movie called? The Polar Express. Something like that, right?
No. Not at all.
What?
I mean, I'm sure they used CG, but it was like real actors. Like, it wasn't an animated movie.
I disagree.
I mean, I'm sure they used
I just
CG
googled it.
for
I
the.
just googled it and I'm right.
No,
The
they.
entire it looks like a PS3 game.
What? No. What?
Yes. Google it. Beowulf
They used
2007.
real, like, human people,
The
and
entire
the
movie was
monsters
motion
maybe were.
the entire movie was motion captured. It looks like a PS3 game. Just look it up right now.
Yeah, I am, and those are humans. I mean,
No, they're
okay.
not.
I'm looking at one picture of the guy, and I see the cutscene face.
Yes, the entire
However,
movie was PS3 era CG.
that is way better than PS3, though. Like, that's not
Sure.
like... You're not like, oh, I'm watching a cutscene from a video game. This is still, like, movie quality.
Maybe in
Anyway,
2007. Anyway, yes, it was what I was thinking. Continue.
there's a monster in it, I think Grendel, and was super weird and spookums, and I was like 13 or something. So I didn't have a nightmare, but then when I was like, oh, I have to go into the basement to get this thing, and you, and this like, the lights are off. I have to turn off the lights. And then you like flip the lights on super quick. You run in. You like get whatever, and then you turn around, run back, and flip the lights off.
Yes, I've had that
Because
experience
if you're
many
alone in the
times.
dark, you'll just like see them.
Yeah, if you're alone in the dark in the basement, the monster gets you, so you have to turn off the light and run up the stairs as fast as possible.
Yep.
Yep.
Or like if you, I think I might have told this one already, but who cares? Like you watch Godzilla or like Jaws or something, and then you go into a pool and you like do a cannonball, and you're like, well, time to swim up as fast as possible, because if I don't, I will be eaten.
Jaws, I understand. I don't know about Godzilla eating me in the pool.
I big lizard thing lives in water.
Crocodile.
Man, you just get a Florida person to take care of that for you.
Mm-hmm. So, have they ever tried that in the Godzilla movies?
Just get a Florida man. Yeah, I see your problem. You let him get too big.
We need Steve Irwin to wrestle Godzilla.
Robert Irwin.
Oh, is that his son?
Yeah.
Does he do crocodile hunting?
I mean, he does animal stuff.
Amazing.
I don't know about crocodile specifics.
One of the things I love about Happy Slappy Town is there are 0 crocodiles here.
Yeah.
Sent them
I
all
guess
packing
so.
back to their homeland. We didn't want them.
I mean, I get. What do you hate, crocodiles and gators?
No, alligators are fine. There's an alligator who works in the post office.
All right, so you're just racist like you are with the orcs, or
Only one kind of
whatever.
orcs. Only one kind of orcs. The other kinds of orcs are fine.
So, what's your damage with crocodiles?
My damage is that they're not from here. I realize I should probably word that better. My damage is that the alligators are from here, and the crocodiles came in, and they attacked the alligators. And the alligators are like, we live here, what are you doing? And the crocodiles are like, yes, but we have better teeth, and so we're going to beat you. We're going to eat you, actually. And then thankfully we were able to join in with the alligators and drive off those evil crocodiles.
Is this like a... I mean, that doesn't sound great or historically accurate.
Do you not know your Happy Slappy Town lore?
This also just sounds like you played too much Donkey Kong and like
yes,
you hate King K. Rool.
Yes, the Kremlins. I'm glad. See, I was actually, but before I was able to save this by making it like a Dances with Wolves things, and I was worried that people were going to think I was talking about like the Mexicans or something. I was like, oh, maybe I can make this about Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I never played Donkey Kong, but thankfully a podcast I listen to does.
They talked about Donkey Kong Country?
They watched the Donkey Kong show.
Yes.
A little bit.
Eric, I want to shower you with coconut cream pies.
Okay.
It's a line from the show.
Oh.
But in the context of the show, it's actually coconut cream pies.
Actually,
but
yeah.
There's a secondary meaning, and it makes the song quite memeable.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Jeez.
We're a little off the rails.
A little off the rails.
That's another thing. I'm glad that we got rid of the train tracks that ran through Happy Slappy Town.
What do you mean? What are you talking
of the rails. I didn't want the rails here. The train is so loud.
Devon, that's an important part of how the train gets places. You can't have a train without rails.
We don't need the train anymore. We have evolved beyond trains.
We haven't. We
I
haven't.
disagree.
Everywhere should be train accessible, and cars should be optional.
I have the exact opposite opinion. I think trains are like a waste.
Nah. Trains are just fun buses.
Trains are the government only giving me one option. They say you're going to this train station or you're going nowhere at all. The freedom of a car, Eric, the car freedom, I can drive out, I can color outside the lines if I want with a car. I can go off-road. I can drive wherever I want.
Okay, so there's a ton of reasons why this doesn't work. First of all, trains have multiple stops. Second of all, you can't color outside the lines when you're driving, because then you're off the road and you're hitting pedestrians or you're going off a cliff. The government made the roads. You're still going where they want you to.
I agree. We should get government out of roads. We should privatize the roads. They should be owned by private organizations within towns. That's why towns are incorporated. The town should own the roads, not the government.
We should just have reliable public transportation that just takes us anywhere and everywhere, and then it'll be fine. And if you want to color outside the lines, you can walk.
Never ask a man his salary, a woman her weight, or a libertarian about roads.
To be fair, it didn't start with roads. It started with train tracks.
See, when I think train tracks, I just think, like, big, loud machines that are carrying, like, coal somewhere. I'm not thinking about passenger trains.
What?
Because all the train tracks that pass by us are shipping freight trains. They're just shipping things from one place to another.
No, they aren't. There's
it's not like,
so
this is public transportation. It's like, no, this is
yes,
big rail cars. No, it's not.
We're gonna have to a talk later.
These train tracks running through train tracks running through Happy Slappy Town are not passenger trains. They're freight trains.
Goodness. They're just what do you call what's not passenger trains? What's the
freight trains?
Just because a certain type of orc is on those trains, they're a freight train now all of a sudden? You're the worst kind of person.
I purposefully don't live near a highway, so I don't need to listen to the 18-wheelers driving stuff to Walmart. But I do live near train tracks, and so I need to listen to the freight train driving to Walmart.
I don't go to
And
Walmart.
it goes, honk, honk, I'm a train, every time it passes by. It's too loud. When I was in college,
No.
train passed right outside my window. Every night, 2 a.m., it goes, honk, I'm a train, honk. That's why my bedtime in college was 2:15, because I knew if I went to bed any earlier, I'd be woken up at 2 o'clock by the train going, honk, honk, I'm a train.
Have you thought about just being a heavier sleeper?
No.
Maybe you should.
As we've established, I wake up 19 times during the night.
Maybe it's because you're just such a light sleeper. Maybe we just need to put, like, I don't know, sand weights on you to make you a heavier sleeper. And then you won't be woken up by things like that.
Like a weighted blanket.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say, you're a light sleeper. I am always listening to stuff when I'm asleep. I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks or music. I'm a listen to a sleepers. I listen to stuff when I'm asleep.
Okay. Like, you could still be a light sleeper.
I don't know. I just think trains should not honk their horns at 2 a.m.
I mean, they must be doing it for a reason, right? Surely they aren't like, let me honk my horn outside of this college for no reason at 2 a.m. every night.
Well, yeah, I think that when it's passing through a certain, like a checkpoint, not checkpoint, but like when the railroad track is crossing the road, it has to blow its horn, its whistle,
Yeah.
like for warning. It has to be like, I'm a train, I'm coming through. And they're like, oh, we'll have the train go through town at night, so it's disruptive to less traffic. And then those two things combined is what leads to the train whistle going off every day at 2 in the morning.
I don't know. It still kind of sounds like a skill issue. I don't get woken up by trains.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Champagne Socialist over here, like, we should have more trains, but then you don't want trains in your backyard. Listen, trains suck. I despise trains, with the exception of songs about trains, because songs about trains usually go hard.
First of all, we live in the same place. Second of all, I'm just a heavier sleeper than you.
We'll see when I have you wear my watch while we're in Japan. A sentence that makes absolutely no sense without context. But they'll understand if they saw the previous episode.
I mean, whose first episode is episode 56 of a thing? Could you imagine putting on Breaking Bad and starting at episode 56?
Episode 56. Slapendipity Hobos of Happy Slappertown. Episode 56. Honk honk, I'm a train. And someone looks at it and they're like, I'll watch this video. I don't know what anything is going on.
The honk honk, I'm a train really captures me, though.
That's the title.
I hope they talk about trains a lot.
Chapter 1. Red Velvet Cake.
Well, now I feel bad. So we have to talk more about trains now.
Oh my gosh. You know what's on all those disgusting freight trains?
What's that?
They're shipping in all the Girl Scout cookies.
Oh no.
Shipping them into the Happy Slappy Town. When you buy your Girl Scout cookies, do you typically have to go outside of the bounds of Happy Slappy Town, or are Girl Scouts allowed inside?
What do you mean? Why would anyone be excluded from Happy Slappy Town, Devon?
Only magical creatures are allowed inside Happy Slappy Town. This is established lore.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, so this year, one of my brother's neighbors is a Girl Scout.
Jesus.
Yeah. So he just bought some of hers to be, like, a good neighbor, because she also has, like, if she hits a certain amount of sales, she gets whatever benefits. So I was like, yeah, I'll buy some boxes from her and, like, be good. And also I get cookies.
When I was a kid, it was if you sell enough popcorn, you get to pick something out of a magazine. and there was like Legos and stuff. So I sold a bunch of popcorn, and I got a Harry Potter, a Prisoner of Azkaban escape Lego set, and it came with Sirius and Harry and Buckbeak and Dementor, and I still have it. It's on my shelf right next to me. So yeah, I guess that the best part of Boy Scout popcorn was the Legos.
Wow. You really are what you eat.
Popcorn.
How do you feel
Eric,
about, like, what? Okay, yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
have you watched the show Severance?
No, and it keeps coming. The first season came out like 5 years ago. People were like, "Hey, have you watched it? It's kind of a cool premise." And I was like, and they explained it, and I was like, "Oh, that does sound kind of cool." And then I just didn't watch it. And now, 5 years later or whatever, I guess the second season dropped, and everybody in their uh, motherly raccoon is watching it and talking about it, and I'm spiteful. Not spiteful. I'm just like, where was this noise 5 years ago when it debuted? Why are we talking about it now when a lot of people are talking about it? And I am just a grumpy old man sitting on his rocking chair going, things didn't used to be like this, but they are now.
The first season came out 3 years ago. I did not watch it because I don't have Apple TV, and there's literally nothing in the world that could convince me to get Apple TV.
Also that.
So the second season came out, and the first episode opens with this really cool shot. And so when it came out, everyone was like, the cinematography of episode 1 is so good. When I ended up watching it, I'm like, it's actually a really stupid shot with a bunch of CG, and I think it's really dumb. Anyway, so because the second season, everyone's talking about it, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to buckle down and watch it. So
Okay.
me and Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's, Foxy. He was able to get me the episodes, from his profession. So Foxy got me the episodes of Severance season 1 and 2, and so I've been watching them, and I binged them in like 3 or 4 days. It's really good. Season 1's a lot better than season 2. But one of the things part of the premise, I don't know, people might just be like, oh, it's, you go to work and you don't think about your outside life. And then when you're in your outside life, you don't remember work. So it's almost like you never have to work and it's always a weekend. But then it's like, oh, but then there's a part of your personality where it's always work and it's never weekend. And that's sad. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a cool premise. But the real premise of the show is that like the company in the show, which is called Lumen, is a stand-in for like Pfizer and Apple and other companies. Like they make medicine and then they make technology and they make all this stuff. And so the idea is that it's just a big overarching company, and the founder of the company is seen as this like deity figure. And as the show goes on, you realize it's more and more like a cult. And he has his like his his 7 rules that you must live by. And so in the building, in the office, there's just like posters everywhere. It's like, oh, you must be this, you must be that. It's kind of like the Ten Commandments, or he talks about like bad things. And so there's like the 7 deadly sins, and like everyone talks about him like he's a god. And like whenever you do something good, and so like you're rewarded in like, oh, we're gonna have a pizza party. They're like, oh, the blessing of the founder has shined upon you, and now in his honor we will have a party. And you can be like, whoa, they're like making commentary on like religion or whatever. But I'm watching it and I'm like, no, they're using religion to make a commentary on how cultish big corporations are. Because as they're talking about all of these things, I'm not making comparisons to the 10 Commandments and the 7 Deadly Sins. I'm making comparisons to all the posters and stuff that were at our place of work when we worked for a big corporation.
Mm.
Do you remember the acronym that they made us memorize? And they'd
Oh
walk in and
yeah.
there'd be a poster on the wall of the acronym that we're supposed to know, and they'd quiz us and be like, hey, what does the O stand for? And then we'd have to say it, and they'd be like, hey, everyone, so, our biggest employee of the month is, this person. And then they get a little badge and it had the acronym on it, and we all had to remember it. And whenever someone from corporate came, they'd be like, okay, I'm going to randomly quiz one of you about what the acronym stands for. And if anything ever went wrong, so like the O stood for order and cleanliness. And so if there was ever anything that wasn't clean, the bathrooms are dirty, they'd be like, tisk, 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 you're not being very acronym today. You forgot the O. O is for order and cleanliness, but you didn't clean the bathroom. And so the show is using, typically I think a writer would use something mundane to comment on something grand like religion. But the show is using something grand like religion to comment on something mundane like corporate office culture. And I think it's so funny.
Lols.
There's someone said something similar about, do you know the comic book character Spawn?
Yeah.
Yeah? No, you
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
say
yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like a guy who died, and then he goes to heaven, but he's unfinished business, and God is like, okay, you can like go back to Earth or whatever. It's like a demon man, but like every time you use your powers, you're gonna eat up some of like your soul juice, and so when you use all your powers, then like you die for real, and you have to go because like your best friend killed you and is now like sleeping with your wife, so you have to go like get vengeance on him. And Spawn is like, okay, and so then he goes and he does that. And there's just a lot of commentary on like religion and like the angels and the demons and the whatever. But what Todd McFarlane is actually commenting on is the state of the comic book industry in the 90s, because he used to be a Marvel artist who drew Spider-Man, and then he hated how they dealt with royalties, and so he left and he formed his own company, and then in his own company he made the character Spawn. And so all of these religious references and characters and gods and angels and stuff is actually commentary on the higher-ups at Marvel. And so he's using religion to comment on the comic book industry, whereas I think most authors would use, again, mundane things to comment on big things. He's using big things to comment on mundane things, and I think that that's such a funny thing. But yeah, no, Severance, good show. I forget why I started talking about it.
You asked if I had watched it, and I was like, not really.
I forget why. I asked you that so that I could go into this conversation about acronyms and religion and whatever. I just forget what we were talking about right before that. But it's fine.
Nothing. We were both like, so did you? and you won. Yeah, I don't. I mean, maybe I'll watch it. I probably won't. Let's be real. But like,
I'll have Foxy hook you up.
I do think it's right. Like you described the basic premise, and I remember people being, that was kind of like the question of the day. It was like, would you do that? Would you separate yourself into like two people so you like never had to work again? And I'm like, no, that's silly. Also, like, the experience of life and hardship and all that stuff. But then also, this isn't like new standard practice because we live in the year 2200 and every business does this. It's literally this one business, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to work for any business that's going to be like, yeah, you can work here, but you can't know anything you do ever in this job. And I'm like, that sounds like highly illegal, and major red flags are going off.
So it's not just the one company. It's just that the company that created the technology happens to be the one that they work for in the show, but a bunch of companies do it. And I would also think that the premise is like, what we do is so secret, we don't want our stuff going out into the public, and so we have to sever our employees. But then you watch the show, and on the inside, they also don't know what they're doing. So I'm just kind of like, so what's the point? If you're not going to tell the employees what they're doing anyway, then like, why bother?
Yeah. Well, because I imagine you get to a certain, like, right? Because you eventually obtain the knowledge, I think, that, like, you've severed yourself. And so then, if they knew what they were doing, they would become hyper paranoid and, like, leak it on purpose.
The managers in the show that do know what's happening are not severed employees.
That's
backwards, weird. Yeah. I agree.
What? See, it kind of sounds like a show that's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool and great because it does XYZ things. Then the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, this seems silly.
Again, it's a good show. You should watch it. Everyone should watch it if you're...
Let me judge without watching and having zero knowledge. How dare you? Let me make my mindless commentating because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you sound like someone who, I don't know. I was going to bring it back to trains, but I lost my...
the tracks.
I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, that's because you ran out of coal, silly. You gotta suck on some coal to get your energy back. Because trains run on coal.
Yes. Do you think that we could
Sometimes.
take... Yeah, I genuinely do not know how trains work. Like, is it just electricity
What?
that,
I mean,
that makes them go down the rails?
nowadays, I don't know. I mean,
Like, how do subways work?
yeah, no, it is electricity, I think, because there's a third rail or something that's like, will electrocute you if you fall down in there.
Yes, did you watch
Uh,
the episode of Mythbusters where Adam peed on the rail?
no.
So they were testing, they were like, some guy was taking a leak once and he peed on the third rail and it shocked him because the electricity charge traveled up the stream and zapped
Right.
him. And they were like, okay, it sounds like something that could happen, but realistically, when you're peeing, it's not actually a steady stream like a faucet. There's like, it breaks up into droplets, especially when it gets to the bottom. And so, like,
Right.
the idea that the electricity would travel from droplet to droplet up to up the stream to actually shock you is like very unlikely. And they were so sure of this that they had Adam pee on an electric
Oh my
rail.
goodness. Did he get shocked?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Why not just hang a water bottle above it and see if it zaps the
They
water
did.
bottle?
They did. So what they did is they built a water bottle that kind of looked like a penis, and they just had it like leak, onto the rail. Um, but ultimately they were like, when you're peeing, it's not just like coming out like a faucet. You're applying
No.
pressure and force to make it come out, and so the water bottle isn't actually a good test. So we're just going to do it ourselves. And then
Oh
they
my
did it themselves, and then he
gosh.
got shocked.
And they're okay.
Yes, I'm sure he was fine. He cursed.
Yeah.
Man, I cannot
Oh
fathom
my
having not
goodness.
I cannot fathom having not grown up on MythBusters. What are you doing?
Um, growing up on anime?
It,
Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
you know how villains are like, we're not so different, you and I.
Yeah.
We are very different, you and I.
Lols. I don't know. I mean, my parents would also just watch a bunch of sports. It's not like it just those types of shows weren't on.
Well, like
The the
I put them on.
Well, yeah, and what I wasn't. Why am I gonna put something on? My dad just got home. He's gonna watch whatever. I'm not. I
Then
can't put on
when did you watch
whatever.
your anime?
Saturday mornings on 4Kids.
Okay, whatever.
Or
I guess
like
I just
in
had
my
more
room on my
leniency.
computer. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I just watched
Like
a lot more
when
TV, maybe.
when my I don't know, I watched Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and Disney and stuff. And like I do remember like, oh, those shows with like real humans. Who wants to watch that? It's all like soap operas and stuff. So, like, Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, I never liked, like, when I was younger, I think the first, like, quote-unquote sitcom I watched, I mean, if we're not counting, like, Drake and Josh, was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because they started airing those on Nickelodeon, and I was like,
Mm,
oh, this is, like, funny, I get it, it's, like, real people, but, like, it can still be funny. Um,
nah.
yeah, and then, I don't even remember, like, when I started watching, The Office wasn't until later, when The Office first came out, it was just so edgy and dark that, like, people like didn't want their kids watching it, and so The Office was kind of like, oh, it's on, but like we're not going to really watch it.
Mm.
I wonder. So okay, so like when did you start watching How I Met Your Mother? Because you were into that before I was.
I don't know, probably when it came out. But
In
that's
like
like,
2005.
yeah, probably. Maybe.
So
Maybe
you're
a
9 years
few
old
years
watching How I
later.
Met Your Mother.
No, I would have been like 10, 11.
Okay, so what?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
Because
I
it
started
was
watching
based on.
Mythbusters came out around that time. Like that's when I would have been watching Mythbusters.
Yeah, but listen, in terms of watching real people shows with actors and stuff, I just watched whatever my parents put on. So when Everybody Loves Raymond ended and we were sick of reruns, we just How I Met Your Mother came out and my parents just watched that. And so then I just watched that. When they
That's so
watched
interesting.
2.5 Men, I watched 2.5 Men. I didn't care about human actors acting in a show because it's whatever. I didn't have a concept of like, oh, I'm gonna what this Mythbusters show sounds pretty cool. What's that about? And then turn it on. I was like, I had to be introduced to a show, like, or like
Fascinating.
we watched it. Real 90s kids will remember like the top 10 most extreme animals.
Yes.
So like my parents put that on and I was like, wow, this is a cool show. And so then I would watch that. But if I did not have like a gateway into a show, I didn't watch it. So when my parents were like, they put on whatever, I watched whatever. Which is why I never watched South Park, really. Because I would have had to go out of my way to find it, and I didn't know that it existed in the first place.
So
And
like
then kids would talk about it, and I'd be like, whatever.
so typically the way that I found new shows is I'd be on a channel and then, so like Comedy Central, right? I watch Scrubs on Comedy Central or Futurama on Comedy Central. And then so I
Mm-hmm.
turn the TV on at a different time and it's still on Comedy Central and now South Park is playing. And so
Mm.
you watch South Park. The first episode of South Park that my family watched was the Guitar Hero episode because Guitar Hero was just so big back then.
Mm.
And so it was like, okay, like this looks funny. Like we saw the commercial and we're like, oh, it's
Mm.
making fun of Guitar Hero. Let's watch that. And so that's the first episode I watched. And I was like, oh, that was really funny. And so then I watched every episode after that. But like I
Mm.
remember I started watching Fairly Odd Parents because like Nickelodeon was on because like SpongeBob and Jimmy Neutron and whatever. And that Fairly Odd Parent show, like the animation sucked. I never wanted to watch it. And then the Chompy episode was on where they like go back in time or whatever. It's like the Old West, Chompy the goat. So we watched that and we're like, that was like the funniest thing ever. So then we started watching Fairly Odd Parents. Um, we watched Jimmy Neutron because the movie was a theatrically released movie, and so like we watched that. So then that was a show, that was a thing that was on. I'm guessing that we just had Discovery Channel on for some reason, and then we turned it on and was like, on this episode of MythBusters, we're gonna blow something up, and I was like, oh my god, I want to see that, and so I just started watching MythBusters.
Mm.
The most recent time that
Sure.
this happened to me, because television doesn't exist anymore, is I had the Disney Channel on because I was watching Star Wars Rebels. So this would have been me in college on the Disney Channel because I wanted to watch Star Wars. And I
Okay.
turned the TV on, and it's halfway through an episode of Star versus the Forces of Evil, and I go to change the channel, and it's just so engaging that I end up sitting down and watching the entire episode, and then I'm like, what is this show? What did I just watch? And then I binged the
Lols.
entire show, and I loved it.
That's fun. Yeah, I don't know. As you were say that story, I'm like, surely I must have did that on like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and Disney and whatever. But like, like, oh, I watched SpongeBob and now Fairly Odd Parents is rolling over and I just didn't change the channel. I guess. I don't know. It was so long ago. I don't remember how I like started watching shows.
I can't believe you don't
Um,
have deep memories of everything you did starting at age 3. I think we've talked about this before, but I've come to accept that my memory is just very different than other people's. But no, I remember all of
Browse.
this. I remember I liked whenever that show would come on where the kids like lived in a treehouse and like they'd like build things and then like fight some adults or whatever, and the adults like with candy, and like the main kid was bald and he wore glasses, and like there were like 5 of them or whatever, and like they would always fight against the adults, and like it was that show and I liked that
Codename
show.
Kid Next Door?
Yeah, I liked that show,
Yeah.
Kid Next Door. And so then whenever I'd be scrolling through the channels, and it was just never on. And the
Mm.
reason it was never on is because on the guide it was called Codename and then a colon, and then it didn't get to Kids Next Door because the word Codename was so long. And so if I remember scrolling past Cartoon Network, a show called Codename was on, I'm like, I don't know what that is. I never put
Oh
two and
my
two together.
gosh. How do you. But.
Because the
Wild.
show was
That's.
not called, the show
It
wasn't called Codename Kids
was.
Next Door, it was just called Kids Next Door, or KND.
No, it was called Codenames Kid Next Door. Codename K&D. Yes, the code name was 100% there. See, I don't remember, like, oh, I started watching this show because of XYZ, but I do remember almost every show I've watched.
the first episode of Teen Titans I watched was, I think there's a fat British guy who's like the bad guy. Um,
Yeah, that's with like controlled TVs and stuff.
yes. So the start of the episode is the TV is static, and then his voice comes on and he goes, "There is nothing wrong with your television. The invasion begins now." And then it cuts into Teen Titans, and I'm like, that was weird. I liked that. Is that Robin from Batman?
Lols. Yeah, I don't know. This is so interesting. See, I don't remember any of my memories until like, unless they were big important things. Like I remember one memory from when, like, I must have been 4 just because of how the math works. So I remember one memory from when I was 4. And, like, I don't remember anything that happened in my life when I was 5, unless it was a big memory. Like, you know, I don't know.
I remember
like
everything that has ever happened to me.
That's weird.
I
remember
know.
so little.
I didn't, like, I used to think, so I'd be talking to our friend George, who I've been best friends with since kindergarten, and, like, we were in Boy Scouts together, and, like, all this stuff, and I'd mention something, and he'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I'd be like, what do you mean you have no idea what you, but, but, it,
But
like,
you
it
were
happened.
there when it happened.
You were there. What are you talking about?
Lols.
And so he, over the years, he'd be like, I don't know how you remember that. And I'm like, you must have a really bad memory. And then over time, I'm like, no, I just have a really good memory. It was kind of like my realization in my mid-20s where I'm like, growing up, I knew like a bunch of guys or whatever, and I'd be like, all of you guys are perverted. You're all like gross and weird. And then I'm like 25 and I'm like, oh, I'm asexual. I get it now.
Lols.
It is in fact I who is the weird one.
Yeah, I forget what it was, but it was like, if one group always has this type of person and you don't know this, you are that type of person.
If you don't have a racist uncle at dinner, it's you.
Yep. That's right. You were talking so much smack at St. Patrick's Day, Devon. You can't just talk about
oh my God.
like that.
St. Patrick's Day dinner, I was like, them. I think it's the Earth orcs that I hate. Them green orcs. Gotta get rid of them.
Unbelievable.
Incomprehensible, I might say, to someone who doesn't know about See Me, the sea monster, or the dragon that works at our post office, or the raccoons that live in our dumpster.
Yeah. I mean, you're just saying established characters in our community. We love them to bits.
Yeah, tell your brother Jesus I said hi, and the next time we're on a train, we can talk about trains.
Okay, that'll probably be in Japan.
It will be in Japan. We can have a whole train conversation after Japan once I've experienced trains.
On a train. Wait, have you never been on a train?
Oh, I've been on trains. I've been on trains to like New York City before.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Continue what you were doing.
Okay, what I was doing was ending episode 56 of Slapendipity. Hope was of happy slappy town. Honk honk. I'm a train. That's the name of the episode.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.